Battle Report. It's 4,500 points. Dread Elves against the Vermin Swarm. Myself and my good friend Nat playing here. Right, let's crack on with deployment. This is deployment then. We got counter thrust as the deployment type, so that's the one where you've got a 16-inch gap and then you deploy a unit and it has to be more than 20 inches from your opponent's unit. The secondary objective is capture the flags. So every scoring unit on both sides has got a star, and the person who destroys the most scoring units of their enemies gets the secondary objectives. So I got to choose which side I wanted to deploy on, which I was very happy about, really, because I'm very concerned about this warp lightning cannon. It can, with a semi-decent shot, each time it shoots, it's got about a 25% chance of killing either my general or my BSB that are both on Manticore. So I wanted to hide behind this hill. So I was pleased to get the deployment side because that meant I could cower bravely at some point. So anyway, let's just go through the units. So just here on Nat's left, you can see his Thunderhulks, and then he's got a great big unit of Vermin Guard. There is a Machinist in here and a Magister. Then he's got a Rat Swarm, a Plague Catapult, another Rat Swarm, the Lightning Cannon, which is very scary, another big unit of Vermin Guard with a Machinist, I can't even say that, Machinist, a Chieftain BSB, and a Lord Wizard Master. This Wizard Master is on Thaumaturgy, not even sure if I'm saying that correctly actually, and this one over here is on Witchcraft, then an Abomination and a Dreadmill, making up, and that's 4,500. On my side, I've got a unit of Acolytes here, then I've got a unit of Dread Legionnaires with Spears, unit of 5 Harpies, another unit of Acolytes, but this one is Cult of Yema, so they have different spell choices. Big unit of Dancers, unit of Corsairs here, Hydra, another unit of Corsairs, Hunting Chariot, another Hunting Chariot, unit of 5 Harpies, another unit of Corsairs, and my General on Manticore and my BSB on Manticore. Now, I've deployed very carefully, and Nat's got the first turn. In my last game, I felt I'd made mistakes with rushing deployment, so I'm coming into this game with a particular battle plan. Priority number 1 is to take out the Warp Lightning Cannon. Priority number 2 is to take out the Dreadmill. Both of these things can do quite a lot of damage to my 5 kind of big models down here. Priority number 3 is to take out the A-bomb. So I'm working with a particular strategy in mind here. I'm sending both of my wizard units at the catapult because at the Warp Lightning Cannon, because I think I can kill that turn 1 by just blasting it with spells. If not kill it, certainly do serious harm to it is what I'm looking for. And then I'm looking to pincushion the Dreadmill over here and come up this way with the chariots to take some wounds off the Abomination before going in with the Hydra, which is more or less a match for it, but it goes in with flaming attacks is what I'm thinking. Keeping the Dancers in the ruins here because they're Yema, so they're Striders, so that just protects them a little bit from shooting, and then just got the Legionnaires down here kind of trying to hold this flank, but I mean it's a bit of an attempt in vain when Nat's kind of heavy loaded one side of the board. But anyway, that's the game plan. So yeah, let's get into the Vanguards. So this is Vanguards, and Nat finished deploying quite a lot earlier than me. I think I did maybe 4 drops after he'd finished, so it was always likely that he was going to get the first turn, which is what he declared he wanted at the time. So this unit here has got a big Nat to throw, which is going to cause some fairly serious harm to some of my units potentially. and I don't want to facilitate his shooting against my wizards really in these acolyte units. So I've actually vanguarded backwards, which is a novelty. I've never done that before. So yeah, just edged these acolytes here out of the range of shooting after Nat has made his movements. The weapons will just be out of range. So that's vanguards. There you go. Okay, so this is the end of Nat's movement, turn one, and you can see he's actually taking a bit of a cautious approach in the middle, really. Just bringing his Vermin Guard up here in the middle, and his Dreadmill. Now, I mean, these dancers at full strength will give the Vermin Guard a good fight, but I'm not sure that Nat's caution is justified, to be honest. That Dreadmill's really dangerous, but he's by only edging up here, he's preventing himself from taking any shots at either of my two characters here. So I'm quite happy that he's being cautious on this side. Coming around the flank here with a little more force though. So yeah, just a cautious advance overall from Nat in his movement one. Okay, so end of Nat's turn one here then. In his magic phase, he missed cast, but it was on a 1/1, so he just failed the rat swarm there. He did get Twisted Effigy off on my acolytes down here, though, so they're going to be at -2 to cast. And he managed to get Hand of God off here, which is the old Comet of Cassandora. So that's going to be a pain in the neck. The Dreadmill, with its cautious advance, was only in range of Corsairs and Furies, and he decided to kill a couple of Corsairs. But with the lightning cannon, he targeted the acolytes, which I was delighted about, really, because he could have targeted my Hydra here, because the ruins don't block line of sight, as far as I know. They don't anyway. So yeah, I'm happy to lose an acolyte and not take any wounds on my Hydra. So yeah, there you go. That's the end of Nat's turn one. My movement one here then. First thing is, well, there are no charges, but these acolytes have just managed to skip straight through here at movement 18 and have managed to just be out of the arc of vision of both of these units. So I've found the tiniest of gaps to kind of sneak through his lines there. Now I could engage these rat swarms and war machines in combat, but I want the magic spells, to be honest. So I'm perfectly happy to just be where I am right now with that. I've brought the dancers up to the edge of the ruins here because eventually I'm expecting Nat to engage me in the front here, and then I'm wanting to kind of come in sideways with, I'm hoping, my Hydra and or my chariots and or my manticore chariots, and I don't want them taking dangerous terrain for being in the ruins, so I'm just coming up to the edge of the ruins there with them. Legionnaires are basically staying where they are because the building is protecting my flank here, so one of these two units is going to be wasted, is what I'm thinking. They're not going to both be engaging me in the front, so I think the Legionnaires will die when they get into combat with either of these units, but if they occupy both, that's to the good, really. Harpies have dropped where they are, trying to bait that into a long charge and give myself plenty of room for the flee. So we'll just see how that goes. Hydra has moved here to exactly 8 inches away from the abomination, just to breathe fire on it. So what I'm hoping to do here is take a couple of wounds off it, and then my Hydra should be able to finish it in combat once it's lost, say, 2 wounds. Chariots are both in position to also be 18 inches away from the abomination. This one's on the hill, so it can see over the Hydra. So yeah, this loop's kind of quite well set up to be causing some serious damage to the A-bomb. Corsairs are basically in formation to try and pin cushion the Dreadmill. Now I'm wounding it on 6s. I'm hitting it on 5s, but I've got an absolute ton of shots, so it's also got a 4-up save. I'm looking to take maybe 2 wounds off it at this stage. And then the Manticore characters here, staying out of the arc of vision of the warp lightning cannon, but moving up the flank to kind of come round this way later on. I'm hoping that by that time the Dreadmill and the A-bomb and the warp lightning cannon will be gone, and they'll be kind of sweeping around the back here onto this unit, while maybe one of these engages in the front perhaps. That's kind of a rough plan anyway. So that's the end of my movement 1. Okay, so this is the end of turn 1, and it's been really bad. It's been very frustrating. I managed to get 4 wounds on the lightning cannon from casting Ice and Fire. That was the one good thing that happened in this turn. I also got Pentagram of Pain off on this unit, which did 0 wounds. The Hydra fired his breath weapon and rolled a double 1, did 0 wounds. Both chariots hit, wounding on 2+, both failed to wound. Corsairs, with their, I think they had about 64 shots between them, did 0 wounds on the Dreadmill. So it's been a very frustrating turn 1. Just the wounds on the lightning cannon were the only saving grace, although it's still got 1 left, so it's still got a turn of shooting. So yeah, that was frustrating. The Hand of God, Comet of Cassandora, or whatever you want to call it, didn't come down, and I took this photo just a moment before the token, so the token will be there shortly. Yeah, that's it. End of my turn 1. That's movement 2 here then. You can see he's continuing to come around this flank here. His Thunderhawks have got swift reform, so they can sort of shimmy around here with quite a bit of manoeuvrability. He's moved his Vermin Guard here into a more threatening position. Obviously the A-bomb is shuffled into the Hydra. I'm quite worried about this now because I was expecting this thing to be down to maybe 3 wounds by now between the breath weapons and the 2 hunting chariots. So my Hydra's in a bit of trouble here because the A-bomb, statistically speaking, without any having taken any wounds, should just about finish off the Hydra. So yeah, a little bit concerned about that there. And the Dreadmill has continued to kind of scuttle away, which I was surprised about because, I mean, I pumped 64 shots into it and they all pinged off it. So I would have expected Nat to kind of come after my characters a little bit here with his 3 shots that each do D3 wounds. I would have thought that these guys would have been prime target. But anyway, he's gone that way, so I'm quite happy about that. So yeah, that's the end of Nat's movement 2. Okay, so end of Nat's turn 2 here then. He's managed to get the swarm off on my dancers, and he's killed a few of those. The Hand of Heaven has also killed another acolyte, so they're down to 3. The Dreadmill has killed a single Corsair. I don't care about that. And the monsters. So this was slightly in my favour actually. The A-bomb slightly underperformed, and so the Hydra did 3 wounds. The A-bomb did 2 and a charge. So it's a straight draw in the middle. So I'll take that. I'm feeling okay about that as a result. Really, it's not making up for the dreadful performance in turn 1, but it's something. So that's the end of Nat's turn 2. To my movement here then. So the first thing is that I don't think the Hydra is going to have another slightly fortunate turn. I mean, it could happen, but it's unlikely. The A-bomb hits it first because the A-bomb agility is 4, but the Hydra's 2. So I've sent in the dancers who are weapon masters, so I can use my great weapons to go and flank charge the A-bomb, and I'm hoping to drop it before it gets any of its attacks on the Hydra, so that the Hydra can survive is the idea there. I'm sort of hounding this Dreadmill with my shots. What I've what I've done here is brought my acolytes up into the middle. So the idea here is to cast Crippling Fatigue on the Dreadmill so that ranged attacks against it reroll to wound, so that I'm kind of pin cushioning it in the corner is the idea there. Manticores are kind of heading across the middle. The catapult is still alive. It's unlikely to survive, but the way turn 1 went, you never know. So I've position them to kind of come in sideways across here. I'm expecting the A-bomb to drop, and I want to kind of come in here. There is the Hand of God here, but that's range 2d6 plus tokens, so I'm thinking that's going to be about 9, which is going to be sort of a radius somewhere around here, and I'm kind of hoping to scoot past it really once the lightning cannon is gone. So I've moved the chariot down here as well, because that one can get a shot off on the Dreadmill, but this chariot couldn't get into a position where it could see and be in range. So instead I've brought it across here to support the Dread Legionnaires against one of these 2 units. I'm expecting this one to get in first, so I'm hoping for a flank charge there. Other than that, I've dropped my Harpies in the way of this big unit here so that it can't flank charge my Dancers should the A-bomb survive, and so that it can't charge them at all should they get caught out of position. And then I've left this other unit of Harpies here very centrally located so that I can drop it wherever I need to in my turn. So there you go, that's the end of my movement phase. So this is the photograph from the end of my turn 2. In the magic phase, I managed to get off the Pentagram of Pain, which did finish off the Warp Lightning Cannon, so that was good. But then the Hand of God came down, and it came down with an almighty radius. It's 2d6 plus tokens, and there were, I think, 2 or 3 tokens at this point. So I was expecting a radius of 9 or 10. It came down with a radius of 13, which basically caught pretty much everything. It didn't quite catch the Acolytes or the Corsairs, but it did catch the Chariots, it did catch the Harpies, it caught both the Vermin Guards, the Hydra, the Dancers. So yeah, it was ugly. It did 5 wounds to these Vermin Guard here, 4 wounds on this unit of Harpies, who still passed their leadership because of the BSB. It did 2 wounds on the A-bomb, which meant that the A-bomb was now down to 1. It did 8 wounds on the Dancers, 2 wounds on the Hydra, 2 wounds on this unit of Harpies here, 3 wounds on this chariot, and 5 wounds on the chariot that was over here, which killed it. So yeah, that was a bit ugly. And then in my shooting phase, I took a wound off the Dreadmill over here. The Dancers finished off the A-bomb and overran, bumping into the impassable terrain so that the Vermin Guard here couldn't charge them, couldn't see them in their arc of vision. So that was the end of my turn 2. On to Nat's movement 3 here then. So he has quite rightly charged the chaff to get it out of the way, but because there was another chaff here, I was able to flee. And then he couldn't catch me because he would run into the other chaff, but of course you can't charge that unit unless you either overrun into it or declare a charge against it. So he had to then declare a charge against that chaff, which then also fled. So a double fled on this Vermin Guard unit here, which caused it to just sort of lumber forward maybe 5 inches or so, and sort of be out of position for magic and shooting at things. The Thunderhawks got into combat here. I was earlier in the game kind of wondering about dropping the Harpies in front of them, but I figured it was just a matter of time before they got into the Dread Legionnaires, and there's not very much I could do about it, because I'm still dealing with the Dreadmill, and up until recently I was still dealing with the A-bomb and the Warp Lightning Cannon, which both took longer to die than they should have done, which has meant that I've really had to keep my focus up here, and I've just kind of got to let this happen really, but there's not a lot I can do about that. And then these Vermin Guard are just kind of lulling forwards here a little bit, and the Dreadmills kind of swung around here, going after the Acolytes, maybe trying to kill the Wizard, I guess. But that's a tough ask because the Acolytes have got a 4 ward. But anyway, there you go. That's the end of Nat's movement 3. That's turn 3 here then. And he's got Raven's Wing off on his Vermin Guard to do a flying light troop move over here. But I'm perfectly happy with that, because what that effectively means is that my Harpies have wasted one of his spells and I managed to dispel all of the others. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that as an outcome. A rat died from dangerous terrain, tragic. The catapults killed 6 dancers, so that was quite a good return for this round on the catapult. And down in the bottom here, the Dread Legionnaires held, having lost combat, although they did manage to kill 1 Thunderhulk, so that was something, I suppose. So yeah, that was the end of Nat's turn 3. Okay, so my movement 3 here then. So at this point in the game, I'm thinking, right, I've got to take points from somewhere, and these 2 big blocks of Vermin Guard are going to be really hard to take points from without any ranked up units. So really, I've got to take out the Thunderhulks, the Dreadmill, and the Catapult. Those are now my 3 targets. If I can get to the Rat Swarms later, fine, but I mean, they're 90 points each, they don't really matter. So anyway, what I've done now is brought the Manticores with the characters down here with the intention of coming around the side here and running into these Thunderhawks. And then I'm kind of hounding the Dreadmill over here, bringing my units around, getting a little bit of in the way of myself a little bit over here, but there's not a lot I can do about that. And I'm moving up here with my remaining dancers. I might go after this rat dart, but the main goal here is to stay well out of the arc of vision of this big block here. The chariot has managed to get itself on the hill, which means that this big block can't see it to charge it, and the Hydra is just backing off because it's only got 1 wound left, so it's not going to be doing very much. And then the Acolytes are both basically in position to go after the catapult and go after the Dreadmill with magic is the idea there. So that's the end of my movement 3. So end of my turn 3 here then, and you can see it's been quite a successful one in terms of goals. I managed to get crippling fatigue on the Dreadmill, which would later mean that the Corsairs could shoot it off because they could re-roll 2 wounds. And I've done a couple of wounds on the catapult as well, so that's now on the way. My chariot didn't have any eligible targets, so it killed our Vermin Guard, no big deal. And the Dread Legionnaires down here lost combat again, but held because they're steadfast. So that was the end of my turn 3. Okay, we're into Nat's turn 4 here then, and he's not declared any charges. He has manoeuvred this Vermin Guard unit here so that he can use his Ratchet Machinist, and he's clearly planning to take out both the Hydra and the Chariot that are both down to 1 wound, so he's going after points there, which makes loads of sense. He's moved his dart out of the way of the dancers because even with just 5 of them, to be fair, they'll probably rip through the darts. And he's brought his big block here kind of towards the centre, I suppose. Maybe looking to support against the Manticores, I guess. So there you go, that's the end of Nat's movement 4. This is the end of Nat's turn 4 then, and his Naptor Thrower has finished off the chariot as planned, but he's not managed to take out the Hydra. I had some good close call dispels. I was kind of putting 3 dice in to dispel a 10, and I think I put 2 dice in to dispel a 7 or an 8 and got them both, so they were both kind of quite fine misses. But anyway, so that protected my Hydra somewhat. The catapult killed a couple of dancers. The Legionnaires, having put up a fight for sort of 2 or 3 rounds of combat, eventually broke and fled off the board. But the Thunderhawks failed their reaction and had to chase after the Legionnaires, which is why they're there like that. So that's the end of Nat's turn 4. On to my movement 4 here then, and I've brought the Manticores over here so that I'm going to get a charge on these Thunder Hulks in the next turn. I've brought the Acolytes down here. I'm planning to cast the Grave Calls on these guys as well, just to soften them up a little bit if I have spare dice. These Acolytes are in position for another Ice and Fire on the catapult here, and the Corsairs are sort of moving over. I think one unit, maybe this top one, can't actually shoot, not in range, because these guys have got hand bows rather than crossbows, which I'm not sure about. I'm not sure whether I prefer hand bows or crossbows. Hand bows are more manoeuvrable, but the crossbows have that longer range. So yeah, not sure about that. Anyway, so that's that, and then the dancers are getting ready to move through this gap here when it opens. So I'm trying to protect this unit because that will keep me in the game with the secondary objectives if I can get it kind of out of the way. Hydra bravely hiding behind the rock because he's got 1 wound left. So that's the end of my movement 4. So, end of my 4 here then. In the magic phase, I managed to get Ice and Fire off on the catapult, killing it. So that's another big objective kind of gone. And I did 3 wounds on the Thunder Hulks with the Grave Calls. And I managed to get Pentagram of Pain off on them as well, for a total of 4 wounds, which generated a panic test, which they failed, and then they ran off the board. So that was an extraordinary turn of events. Now, the Thunderhawks actually had quite a nasty shooting weapon. They had a Naptor launcher, which is 2d6, strength 5, armor piercing 1. So, with multiple wounds d3, I hadn't actually twigged this. I'd just missed it, which could have done quite a bit of damage. I mean, 2d6, you're expecting somewhere between 6 and 8 shots. I assume he'd go after my general because he's got a slightly lower save. So let's say he gets 8 hits. He's hitting on 4s, 4 wounds. He's AP 1, so my armor would save 2. He inflicts 2 wounds. I've got a ward save 5+. Let's say that saves 1. 1 wound does d3 wounds. I think it's got clipped wings as well, so could have made an ugly mess of my general. Probably wouldn't have killed it, but there's always a chance. So anyway, I was glad that they fled off the board because it saved my general's blushes somewhat. So there you go. Anyway, that was the end of my turn 4. Turn 5 movement here then, and you can see he's charged at the chaff. Got to get rid of them. That's the right thing to do. And he's bringing his unit up here with his Magister in it, obviously looking to finish off this Dancer unit and claim the secondary objective, which is the right thing to do. He's also got his rat darts kind of tucked in fairly neatly so that it's quite difficult to get to them with the 2 big blocks there. So some good play from Nat there in turn 5. Nat's turn 5 here then, and you can see just up in the corner here he got a Flux card too, and he had 1 spare Veil token, so it was 6 to 5. So that was fairly fortunate because he rolled slightly below average, and I rolled pretty much average for the Dispel attempt. So I managed to get through this phase without taking any wounds from spells. His shooting with his Ratachit Magister, with his Flaming Breath weapon, I think it is, also failed to do any wounds on the dancers. So that was really good news for me. Otherwise, he smashed through the Harpies as you would expect and reformed. So that was the end of Nat's turn 6. I meant turn 5. That was the end of Nat's turn 5. This is my turn 5 here then. So I'm basically just kind of scattering over here, getting as far away from these big blocks as I can. I don't want to lose any any more models to combat, because if either of these blocks gets into anything I have left on the board, then it's going to be taking points from me. And with the secondary objective, I especially want to get these guys as far away as possible. But I'm trying to give Nat a little bit of a headache as well, by putting my 2 Manticores in the rear of his unit here. Now he's steadfast, he's got all his ranks, he's got his BSB and his general, so it's going to be hard to break that. But you never know. I mean, there's little else they can do anyway, and it's worth just a quick try. It might pay off, you don't know. So that was my movement turn 5 there then. Followed by a very uneventful turn 5. There's very little else to be done, so I just cast Ice and Fire on this unit of Vermin Guard here, just trying to take a few wounds off it, just focusing on this one really because there's more points in that. So yeah, that was it. That's my turn 5. It's Nat's movement 6 then, and what he's trying to do here is use his Rat Dart on the side to protect his flank. I realise at this time that I can actually get around that because I can charge this Manticore here into contact with this unit, and then I can charge this one at the Rat Dart, and as long as I punch through the Rat Dart in one turn, which I think I should be able to, I can't see why that would not be the case unless it's unbreakable. But that doesn't sound very Vermin Swarm, does it? Then I could overrun and engage in that combat that hadn't happened yet, was what I was kind of thinking while Nat was doing this. So yeah, there you go, that's Nat's movement 6. And this is the end of Nat's turn 6, and I managed to dispel the swarm of insects which he had cast on my dancers here, but he did get off Raven's Wing, which would bring him into range for a breath weapon. I think the breath weapon was a spell, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But then he rolled 2d6 and got 4 hits, wounding on 4s, rolled 2 2s and 2 3s. So that was quite comical, really, from my point of view, anyway. So yeah, that was the end of Nat's turn 6. He didn't achieve any wounds in turn 6. My movement 6 here then, and with Nat having Ravens winged his unit up here, I can't really charge it with my Manticores. I think they're out of the arc of view now anyway. So I've gone sideways into this unit here, and then I'm bringing my my spellcasters into range here. I'm planning to kind of pump Crippling Fatigue, maybe the Grave Calls, maybe Pentagram of Pain, even if the option presents itself for Ice and Fire. I'm basically planning to throw every projectile that I've got at this unit now, just in the hope of generating a Freak Panic. So yeah, there you go. That's the end of my movement 6. So end of my turn 6 here then, and you can see that despite getting off Crippling Fatigue, my 64 shots into this unit haven't caused a panic test. In fact, only 9 shots hit out of 64, which was disappointing. And that only generated 2 wounds, so not even close to generating a panic test there. And over here, pounded on the Vermin Guard from the flank, but I have 0 ranks because I'm light troops, so he was still leadership 10, so he was always unlikely to break. So there you go. So at the end of the game then, we ended up with a 10-10 draw. We've both killed one of our opponent's scoring units, so nobody takes the secondary objective. So it finishes 10-10. This was my first game with Dread Elves. I quite enjoyed them. I enjoyed the manoeuvrability. I wondered about the hand bows by comparison to the crossbows, but I still think I'm going to be sticking with the hand bows for now. The crossbows have got the longer range and the armor piercing 1, sure, but the hand bows have got march and shoot and quick to fire, so you can kind of get off with those troops, get securing spots on the board and what have you. Whereas the the crossbowmen have to basically kind of stay where they are, otherwise they start hitting on 4s, long range 5s, move 6s, and that's no good. So I think I prefer hand bows right now. It's been a long while since I've used crossbows, to be fair, but I think it just makes more sense. It feels like it makes more sense. I think the game was very heavily influenced in turn 1. The fact that the lightning cannon survived when I got 4 hits on it with strength 4, pentagram of pain, and all 4 failed to wound. It should have been dead at that point. Similar sort of story with the Hellpit Abomination. I mean, two chariot shots, both hitting on 3s, both roll 1s. 2+, that thing is taking D3 wounds. It'd have a 4 fortitude save, fair enough, but it's probably going to take 2 wounds between the chariots, isn't it? Law of averages. And then the breath weapon, it doesn't even get a save against that. So 2d6 breath weapon from my Hydra. I'm thinking, a wound, 2 if I'm lucky, and that would, I think, change the whole outcome of the game, because with the warp lightning cannon and the A-bomb being gone and weakened, that would have entirely changed the way I could play my characters and my Manticore, and I wouldn't have got stuck in this bottleneck here and had a great big chunk of my army taken out by the hand of God, and my movement in this army should enable me to avoid things like the hand of God, but the abomination got in the way. So I think that was unlucky, to be fair. I think that this army deserved a slightly better result than 10-10. There were times later in the game when I was a little bit more lucky. Like when the dancers survived, but had events in turn 1 not have transpired in the way they did, then that would have been a moot point anyway. So, yeah, I think I'm quite happy with this list. I don't think I'm going to make any changes to it before playing my next game, and I'll give it a couple more games, see how it goes. But it was a good game in any case. Nat played well throughout most of the game and didn't make it easy. It was a very enjoyable one, this one, actually. So yeah, there you go. That is the end of today's battle report. Thank you to you all for watching and listening to my ramblings, and hopefully I will be back again next week. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.